I grew up looking at some of Kevin's artwork in the hair salon, and to now be on a panel with him, it's like, girl, what? I'm sitting with him on the panel, girl. He was on the wall when I was getting my first relaxer. But no, it's just an honor because when I first started painting, it wasn't really like a thing. I was like, I'm not selling this artwork. I need to come up with another plan because I need these bills to be paid. And so that's when I learned how to pivot into fashion. And because people always ask me what I wore, I said, well, why don't I start wearing my artwork? And so that was my main platform for selling my artwork. And now everybody asks what I'm wearing, then I tell them it's an original piece. And now my pieces that the originals, that's okay. Now they are worth far more. Now they're worth far more than before. So I go from apparel, home decor. I painted cars. I painted buildings. Anything that paint can get on, I'm gonna be doing it. So I'm not just a canvas artist. I am actually a marketing aficionado that happens to love color. So that's how I make my living.
Very good. Oh my goodness, so awesome. So talented. I'm Brenda Nicole Moore. I'm a singer, a songwriter, an actress, multifaceted artist. I do photography, graphic design. I've worked in nonprofits the last 15 years on and off. I started in 2004 as an artist. I released my first independent record in 2011. I've released two more since then and an EP. The most recent film I did was Respect movie, and I'm singing on the soundtrack as well. I've kind of all the multitasking that I do in my arts, I've funneled it into a business called Gleam. So now I run a creative agency called Gleam, where I work with artists and mission-based small businesses and nonprofits, fundraising, consulting, and all those things as well. So I'm very much an artist and also on the business side of art as well. My degree is actually in marketing and my master's degree is in arts of administration. So I've always done both, and that's because when I started singing out on the Atlanta scene, singing in Apache and stuff like that, there were so many talented artists, and they always have, all these CDs that they're slinging. And I would go to their houses for rehearsals and stuff, and they have all these boxes of CDs sitting in their house. And I'm like, well, how are you getting it out there? How are you selling them outside of you doing it yourself? So I decided to learn the business side of it so that I could be able to be my own business as an artist.
Well, I'm a 40-year full-time artist. I started at the age of 16, growing up on the south side of Chicago. My initial employment was painting for small black businesses in my neighborhood. From that point, I basically worked with the hair salons in the community because there were more of them than anything else. At 19, I became a full-time illustrator for soft sheen hair products. I would work with professional hairstylists and do step-by-steps for product inside the product boxes to achieve different hairstyles. From that point, I started printing my own work, probably about the late 80s, 80, 89. I started printing my own work, and it was the posters for the hair salons. So I used to get hired by the companies to produce the posters for them to promote their products. And then I would go to certain salons and they say, I like your posters, but I don't use their products. That's what the stylists would tell me. So I decided to do the images without the product endorsement as a product. My first publishing venture, I had a printing house that was, worked with me, and I went to a hair show. I bartered for the booths because I didn't have any money to start that. And as they say, the rest is history. So I'm a publisher, I'm a manufacturer, I'm a distributor, I'm a painter, I do speaking engagements, appearances, and I'm a fine artist now. So after 40 years in, there's an evolutionary process. So But those are pretty much my various streams of income. Yeah, I also grew up looking at Kevin's art and beauty, well, not beauty schools, you know, barbershops that had, you know, a split like women over here, men over here. But yeah, anyway, so my name is D.L. Warfield. I've been working commercially, like as an artist, creative person since 1992. Um, like in college, you know, I had an agent and I was working as an illustrator for all different types of publications, Anheuser-Busch, Miller Beer, Sprite. But my career has had a bunch of like shifts and shapes, but everything has been founded in me being a hustler and me being able to create and think at the drop of a dime. And so like my first job out of college, you know, like I was a fashion designer. Didn't go to school for fashion, but you know, that was my first job. So I was a fashion designer. I went from that to designing retail stores, all while painting, all while doing shows, all while trying to sell my own work. And then you know, like I moved to New York City, clothing designer in New York City, and then later, based on styling, like freelance styling things that I did and set decoration, you know, I was hired as the creative director for the Face, and there I was responsible for branding Usher, Outkast, Goody Mob, TLC, Ti, you name it. And so the initial question was, you know, when did you start? Like the first check that I ever got for art, I was in the seventh grade, you know, and I won a logo designing contest for the American Can Company, and I got $500. I still have the drawing that I did for that. So you know, so I've been doing it. I've been at this thing for a while. You know what I'm talking about? Nah, but yeah. So streams of income, like you know, I learned at an early on in my career from having great mentors that you know a lot of times you might not just be able to rely on your own work, and just like Kevin, you know, with everything that he said that's attached to his work, you know, because Kevin, like, you know, Kevin, Melissa, I mean, we just met, but like, even though he's a person, like he's a business, and so I look at myself like I'm a business, so like all of my thoughts have value. So when it gets down to streams of income, like people pay me to have conversation with them about what they're doing. So that's one stream of income that I have to actually touch anything. They just want to hear what I think and hear my perspective. So that's one, and I would call that creative direction or brand consulting. The other thing is, yes, I do merchandising as well. And then I've done collaboration with other artists like Melissa. Like we've done some cool things together. And so in that capacity, I work as a retailer and a publisher and a curator. You know, just like you know Kevin mentioned, just being you know wearing all of those hats and being all of those industries. And so today, like I work in merchandising, I work in fashion, I exhibit as a fine artist, I sell prints of my work. You know, I license things that I've created to TV shows, movies, and things like that. And always looking for the next challenge. So.
It's such a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah.
I'm just excited because they truly have some really, you know, we're in the days of social media, overnight success. It all looks good. So I really wanted y'all to hear from these folks who have been in the game for a long time. You mentioned DL movies, which brings us to my next question, and I'll start with you on that one. Atlanta is widely known for our film and music industry,
Right.
right? So a lot of films, you know, are going on throughout the city. What advice could you lend, say, a movie production company wants to come to town and the likeness of your work is in it?
Right.
What advice could you lend as far as that process, how to handle that, some of your experiences?
Well, I would say, you know, when somebody approaches you with a situation like that, the first thing you really got to be honest and consider is like where you are in your career. Because at the end of the day, everything is going to be based on budget, you know, because the set designers and the art directors, like they're trying to save money. And what they don't want to do is spend a lot of money on artwork. And so, but on the flip side of that, like if a director requests something,
or if an actor requests something, then you may have leverage, but still at the end of the day, like they don't want to, like if I have a piece and just say the piece is $15,000, they do not want to pay that. They're trying to really save and skim things the best way that they can. So you have to think like, okay, where I'm at in my career, and is it worth it? And will this elevate me and give my work a platform that will outweigh what I'm going to be compensated for? And so, like I have a couple pieces in like the new Book of Power, you know, and it was requested by the director, and like the situation that I have with that director is that uh, we go back a long way. We're friends, and he gave my daughter a job. So that's a whole different situation. And I'm like one of those guys. Like if you do something to help and elevate my kids, like I'll pretty much just do anything that you ask me. And so, but still, even in that process, like it was cost related. And so I pretty much gave them like a wholesale fee for that, and it was for me to be able to print it, and I shipped it to the piece so that I control and I still own the files. But I know that somebody probably took it and hung it up at their house. And so that's kind of like one way to look at it. And then I just got reached out to, and I have a piece that's going to be in the opening scene of the reboot of L.A. Law with Blair Underwood, and so that piece is going over his mantle. So those are one of those things that I was like, hey, that's going to elevate me, him. And when they sent me the edit, I was like, sheesh, So it was worth it. I mean, it was. And so what I sold them the piece for was like what I would sell a small original for, or a larger G clay print, like what I would sell them that for. And but it's going to be a great look, and I think that it's going to help elevate the value of that work. And then I'm trying to think, other scenarios. I mean, um, you know, tips is like always control the printing because they're not going to want an original on set. So best case scenario is if they want your piece, you print it, you ship it. You charge them for the print, you charge them for the work, and you also maybe even mark up the printing some. So maybe add 20% to whatever that cost is. And so in all of the cases, like I've always controlled my own files. So but that's the tip that I would give you for that. But again, I know a lot of times artists are looked at and asked to give things for free, or why don't you come do like a little art setup at my party? Because people, I mean, you can get hit with that all the time. So you really got to be honest and say, where I'm at right now, is this going to help me? Because you're definitely going to help the environment when you put your art in it, but it has to be beneficial. Well, it don't. Well, in the beginning, like people are going to take advantage of you, and sometimes they like you kind of need to let them take advantage of you to help catapult you to another level, and that's just the steps that you got to go through.
And then Kevin, if you could speak to that.
Okay, yeah, I need this mic. For me, my philosophy is a little different. Earlier in my career, I would get the emails and reached out, and they'd put my work on sets and different things like that. Now, the requirement is that they have to have some level of narrative and dialogue about my piece when it's on camera in a positive light. So I want to know how you're using it, how you're going to talk about it, the light that it's going to be in. And if that is all in alignment, then that's the payment for me. Other than that, I'm not interested in being the background to anybody else's lead singer. The art has to be the star. That's just with my art, that's where it is. With anything, I don't do restaurants, none of that. It's just the art has to be the star. You have to stop the show. You have to introduce the art. We have to talk about the art. We have to take the art in. It's about the art. That's it.
And then Brenda, since you're in the performing arts space, if you could speak to that as well, with especially knowing the film and entertainment industry.
Yeah, so I guess as an actor, I'll talk about it, and then as a singer as well. As an actor, obviously you have to do auditions and things like that. one thing that I've noticed that Atlanta does is when you are asked to be a singer or a musician in a film set here, Georgia is one of those right to work states, so they don't have to pay you a SAG contract. So I always tell, I don't do those anymore. In the beginning, like 10 years ago when they were first coming here and I didn't know any better, and they were like, oh, I'll pay you this small amount of money to come lip sync in this thing, not knowing that that's actually SAG and that's against union rules. But in Georgia, our rules are really lenient still, and they haven't all the way, given us the same rights that they give actors in LA or Chicago. I don't know what other cities are like this, but that's definitely one of the things as an actor or as a singer, being in a film, making sure that you get that SAG contract, because not only does that mean you get paid the first time that you come there to work, but that means you also get residuals, royalties afterwards. So I still get checks, from things that I did 8 years ago, as a singer in a TV show or something like that. So that's super important. I know musicians right now that are still taking those kinds of contracts because we keep allowing them to, and as long as we keep allowing them to, they will. So I'm really passionate about that. Get your money. Also, on the other side of it, kind of like the production set side, my house actually gets scouted a lot for film, TV, and we've done two productions in the last year. And yes, they're coming in working with a budget, but my thing is always negotiate, because they want to spend the least amount of money, but they do have money to spend. And again, they will take advantage of us because we're in Atlanta and they think we don't know how the business works. So that's my advice. Make sure you get the right contract, negotiate, and ask for, what everybody else gets.
Those are great perspectives. I am very intuitive. I am a person that leads with my spirit and my heart, and so my first rule of thumb is discernment as an artist. And so I had a lot of great opportunities when I first started, but I just like I'm not feeling this though. Like the money was there, but it just didn't feel right. But there were other opportunities that had no money on the table, but they felt good. Did you all enjoy the food today? Yeah. Y'all enjoyed the food? Did you see the sticker on the cup? Yeah, so I designed that, right? And so I had just met Zach and Robin like the second time I met them. And I was like, y'all need some art in here, and that's just me. If I have a thought, I'm just gonna say it. I said, I need some color or something. He's like, well, give us some. I was like, well, I don't really know y'all. And God, I listen to God pretty loudly. He was like, you need to give it to him. I was like, give him some art. I need some money. But and I didn't even realize Zach and I's birthday are a day apart. We found that out later on. And I was like, that's why God sent me over here. You're a Taurus. And so we had a conversation. We laughed and talked. I gave it to him. And I'm a person that instead of writing my journal at night, I actually paint at night. So I digitally draw at night as my journal. So I have art through the nose. And so just because it didn't cost me anything doesn't mean I don't charge people. But when I move with my heart and my spirit, things happen. So I give them the artwork. A few weeks later, Oprah comes in town. Guess where she stopped by? Local Green Atlanta. And guess who art has been all over the world from that one opportunity? Local Green Atlanta and ABO Creations. And then a year later, Zach is like, Mel, check your email. Local Green is now heading to Disney World in Orlando, the only Black restaurant in Disney World. And so because of that one opportunity, me saying, you know what, I like you. I'm going to go with my spirit with this. And now I've gotten two global opportunities because my spirit told me to do it, whether I made money or not. But because of those opportunities, I now I can't even tell you the number that I've made just from people going into Local Green saying, I like this art over here. Who did that? Oh, my sis did that. Zach is your biggest advocate. And he sent mega millionaires to me that I've now had, opportunities that don't even have a dollar amount. And so even as an artist, you don't, and no matter how big I get, I'll still take opportunities that I don't make any money from because it feels right. Because I know when I plant a seed in the ground on good ground, that it will grow. It might be like a bamboo tree. It may be slow, but in that fifth or sixth year when it shoots up, it's going to be amazing. So as I'm in my bamboo year right now, the opportunities I've gotten have been through the roof. And then we talk about Kevin being here. My first global opportunity happened. He made me apply for Spanx, had a contest. The day I went to his house was the day that the application was due. I was not going to apply because I thought I was too flamboyant for a bra for Spanx. So because I applied, that was my first opportunity globally because he had a conversation. We said, you should just apply. Let's see what happens. And so when you move with your spirit and intuition, God will lead you in your artwork where it needs to go. So don't always lead with money. That's my personal opinion, because when I gave up the looking at the dollar amount last year, I made the most money I've ever made because I stopped looking at my bank account. When I did my taxes, the lady said, you made like 10 times what we talked about in 2020. I said, girl, I need a bodyguard. And so, but I stopped focusing on the money, and the money started to come, because that was my biggest fear. Like, I don't want to be a starving artist. God was like, you never starved. In 8 years, you never went hungry. And so I stopped focusing on the money, and the opportunities came. So the restaurants came, and now I'm talking to 3 other restaurants that feel good and they have a budget. And so they come. So you may have opportunities where you can just get your stuff in the door. And so, like, just recently, somebody reached out to me. I told them my budget was 10,000. They said, we can give you 3. I said, okay, give me 3, but give me 5 more opportunities. And so they've given me 5 more. And so when I initially asked for that one little thing, I said, I'll take less. And now I'll be at Essence Fest and 4 other events after that. So I talked myself into a bigger opportunity. So don't be afraid to take less than what you asked for, but make sure you get something spiritually or something that's going to make you get further ahead. So it's not always about the money as an artist. I know people tell you, don't let people cheat you out your money. Sometimes it's okay, but you're going to find a way to cheat them on the other side too. Now I want to work.
Get back.
Those are great points.
Yeah, now.
So yeah, part of the reason we're here today too is, like I said earlier, inflation, cost of living, COVID, it's all on the rise. And so culturally, we have to, link arms as a village for those learning curves, be it entrepreneurial, creative learning curves, and making space. So, what advice, they say, if you get ready, you stay ready, you have to get ready.
I can tell you that.
What advice could you lend to our audience about managing multiple streams of income, whether it be like your systems or what's your process? Because it's a lot of hats to wear. You got the foundational business side, and you got the creative side. So, what advice can you lend to that?
Wow, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I think the first thing that I learned, I've been a full-time artist, I think now 4 years, where I'm not working my day job at all. The thing that I learned the most is it ebbs and flows. And you have to ride the wave. And so at first it's really scary, but after you get used to it, you start to expect and know when things are going to ebb and flow, and just trusting that it's going to work out, but also being smart with the money you make when you make it, saving, having business accounts that are just for business. You're not commingling personal money and business money together. I think that's a really important thing. I have systems in place where I don't like doing taxes. So I have systems in place where it does it for me. If I swipe my card, it goes to the system and it takes care of it for me. I can go back and check and things like that, but making sure you have systems in place that make it easy for you in the long run or in the end. And just trusting the process and knowing that as things are ebbing and flowing, as long as you are following your heart and leading in the way that the universe is telling you to, trusting that it's going to be okay. But also at the end of the day, you gotta pay bills. So being smart on how you are spending your money, and knowing when those times are going to come. Like, I know that in the Christmas time or whatever, that's a big time of year for me, and then it gets really slow January, February. And so I prepare for that every year. I know that January, February is going to be fine. In my mind, that's my break. That's my vacation time. And then I go back to work when I know that, the industry in which I'm working in is going to ebb back up. So being prepared and having those, clear bank accounts and knowing how to spend money and knowing how to save.
Okay. And Kevin, I'll speak to that.
Oh, okay. It's kind of touchy because I approach my business and my life, like Melissa, through a spiritual trajectory. but at the same time, I'm extremely like a split atom. So there's a format that I follow as a creative that I think all creatives should be understanding of. One is that there are three forms of payments for creatives. The main form of payment for a creative is acceptance. That's their first form of currency. The second is praise. The third is money. So when the industry is knowledgeable of this, they use this to manipulate you. Okay? So whereas I operate from my inner spirit, I'm extremely woke when I'm doing business. So when you're doing business with me, I have already made a previous investment in myself. So when I charge you, I need to make a profit. I need to take that profit, split that money, invest my money into something else outside of my creative, as well as back into my creative, and then use that money at some point to bank myself. So I have streams of income within my umbrella that generates a bank. So that's how I make my money. I may take that lowest price point and that builds my bank. What I do with that money, though, puts me in power. Whereas I can either do a gallery exhibition with a gallery, or I can rent your gallery out, do my own exhibition, take the whole bag, take that money, invest in charities, give to foundations, start my own foundations, because the money is some level of power. At the end of the day, you can reach levels, and some of these levels, like the sister said in the performing arts, I can't, Brenda, like Brenda said, you have to get the bag. You cannot go pro. You cannot go to the NBA, get to the finals, get on the floor, and then just say, "Oh, I'm glad to be here." Did you get paid? Because those were the people who had the unlimited bag to pay you. And if they don't pay you, which I call client discipline, I'm hard on that. I will not sell my work to someone to discipline them that it is valuable, that I control who loves my work and who has it. Not just your money, but because I have money, I can make that decision not to give it to you. Okay? I don't have to be an item in your collection of things if I don't feel like you actually love and appreciate what you have option to have. So the financial piece of this is extremely important. The spiritual piece is everything. You know, you have to be guided to make decisions. I just withdrew from Essence Festival. This is my first time withdrawing from Essence. But because of some of the information that I received about the control of the money that's about to happen at Essence through, you know, a Clover POS system. And so at that point, that changes things, because now you're going to take the money that I earned, you're going to hold my money, and then you're going to pay me my money later when I've had to invest my money up front. And not that it hurts me as an individual, but it hurts emerging creatives. It hurts the dreamers who's taking a last dime to get to Essence. So if I can't take cash at my booth, then I can't eat that night, because I done paid everything I got to get here because I believe in my shit. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when I talk to you, I'm talking from that person that has been there, and also that person that's over on this side now. And I say do both. Just be woke and conscious that you get played, okay? But play the game, okay? You have to get screwed. You just decide if it's at the Motel 6 or at the Ritz Carlton. And on that note, hey,
I'm just glad that Kevin cursed before I did. So because I got a real peppery, Tabasco like dialogue. Yeah. So I mean, I agree with what everybody said. I mean, what Melissa and Kevin, what they spoke just about things feeling good. One thing with an artist, though, I think like with you creative, like I'm one of those creative artists that almost every single idea that somebody brings to me sounds good. And so like I've had to discipline myself to not jump on every idea over the years, which is where I have all of this gray. And so, like jokingly speaking, but seriously speaking, like uh, if you're an artist and you want to solve all your problems, you need to get a clone of my wife because she knows. Because my wife keeps it 100% all the time. She's a numbers person, and so like I could sell a piece and I can like, yeah, we made this, and she's like, nah, not really, because it costs this, this, and that, and then you have to do this, and so she's a great like check and balance, borderline dream crusher at times, but all in love though. And so because they cover like the spirit, the spiritual side and just feeling good and things like that, I want to talk to you guys strictly about tactics, and things that I've used to help me. So one, if you're a visual artist, archive your work at the highest level. So that means, sometimes you might have to go a step beyond the iPhone photo. Like you might have to hire somebody to photograph your stuff. Because if it's photographed at the highest level, then you can take that, you can make prints, t-shirts, etc. So don't skip on that. Research good art copy photographers and definitely archive that stuff. Arrange it so that you know where it is. A great website for that is called Artwork Archive. And so I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but a cool thing about that is one, you can upload all your artwork. And then two, you can send catalogs, you can set up private galleries, you can invoice, it tracks location and everything. So I think that's a very, very great tool, for artists to keep up with every single thing that you're doing. Artwork Archive, way better than Dropbox. I mean, Dropbox is a backup, but use Artwork Archive to do your artwork business. And then another thing that I'm a big fan of is QuickBooks. And so everything is a cost, you know what I mean? And so like I'm at Home Depot like 3 times a week because I build a lot of stuff, and so as soon as I get my receipt, you know, photographing it, it's going. Because one of the problems that I had to deal with maybe like 6 years ago was like how I was organizing all of my receipts and my billables and things like that when I had to give it to my accountant for taxes. And so, one of the things that Ash addressed was about, like what has happened with artists in the pandemic and things like that, and how can you sustain. And one of the things that I noticed personally, and I see this still to this day, is that a lot of artists plan when it's too late. So you want to be planning and strategizing when everything is great, but when you got to plan because it's a crisis, like you missed it, and so always be planning. Like from a business standpoint and selling work, financially, like the model that I've kind of taken is that with all of my pieces, like I have scaled up price on whatever it is, probably about 15%. So every year I go up, maybe 12 to 50% or whatever it is. And so one thing that has done is it's allowed people that bought my work in 2012 to, one, their artwork appreciates in 2014 because somebody else is getting that and they're paying 30% more than they paid. So they appreciate that. So I've done that. Like I've seen artists sell a piece for 1,500, then the next piece is like 65,000. It's like and a year hadn't even passed. And so, it might be worth 65,000, but you eliminated a lot of people that was going with you. And so that's one of those gut things that, you have to decide. But like my rule of thumb is kind of scale up my prices 12 to 15% a year, you know. And Kevin has got me on. All right, hey, so and then I'm trying to think what else tips. Yeah, I think the organizing of the assets though. Like I think that has been one of the best things that I've done. Like I had a painting that I did and when I was in college, like in 1992, in like 2016, uh, a protein powder company seen it, and they licensed it, and we did a 3-year deal. And so it was literally like a piece that was just, I had a color transparency, matter of fact, it wasn't even a digital photo. I had an 8x10 color transparency when they used to use film, sent them that, they scanned it, and they paid me in advance, and then they paid me, 2 additional years after that. So, but that comes from taking care of your work, and so just like how we say, we want to get compensated for our work and our work has value as an artist, you got to take care of that shit like it has value, so that's that. Oh, I cursed too. I had
What they do. I mean, this wisdom is like this. You should be charging y'all for this. But anyway, that's another bad we'll talk about later.
Hey,
I hope I see she was taking
I
notes.
mean, it's fine. My rule of thumb is act like my phone is always going to ring. And that is, people always ask me like, "Oh, you get dressed so fast." So I literally have my clothes laid out. Every time my phone rings, I'm already ready. Like whether it's my clothing, whether it's my art. I don't know. A lot of you may not know. I signed a deal with Foot Locker last year, and so the opportunity came literally overnight. And so they said, "Well, how soon can you get me some?" I said, "Give me about an hour." She said, "No, like a whole collection." I said, "Yeah, give me an hour." She was like, "Girl, okay, girl." I was like, "No, give me an hour." And so, like I was saying, all through pandemic, I was of course panicking a little bit, but also was like, I'm about to prepare because we about to get into it. I felt before the whole George Floyd and all those things happened, I felt like something big was going to happen, but God needed to push us into the caves. So I went to work, and so I had over 100 patterns in my laptop, and I just painted every day. I would go home, watch Golden Girls because wasn't on TV because we locked in the house. I don't watch everything on Netflix from the top to the bottom. I said, let me go back. So God gave me an idea to pay homage to the 80s, pay homage to the 90s. So I'm doing crazy prints that you would have seen back in the day on Living Color. So I'm doing prints. And so fast forward to March, April of 2021, they said, can you give me about 5 to 7 designs? I said, give me an hour. And so I pulled out an entire collection within an hour, went on Canva, and put a whole portfolio together. And the number one seller is one I had laying around my house. And now it's the number one global seller. But because I acted like my phone was going to ring, I was already ready. And so that's the biggest thing that every company is talking is that these artists are not ready. They don't answer the phone. Y'all don't answer emails. And when y'all pick up the phone, y'all sound crazy. So start working with your friends. Say, girl, pretend like you're a gallery owner. Let's practice. A lot of people are not ready for these opportunities. So when people call me for an interview, I could be in my hair scarf and talk like I'm on CNN, like it's nothing, because I've been practicing literally all my life for moments like this. So I don't get nervous in front of the camera. And even Carol was like, "You always ready?" I said, "Girl, I've been waiting for this moment." Every time the camera comes, I'm like, "What's going on?" And people laugh at it, but I've been chiseled for this moment. And so when I get the opportunities, I'm ready. So I'm never nervous. I am nervous, but I'm never like nervous about not getting something, because if this don't work out, something else will. This ain't the last panel. If you didn't get picked for this one, you might get picked for the next one. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to say you don't know something. Like I'm sitting, I got involved with the conglomerate with Afropunk, something I applied for the last day again. I might have a little last minute spirit on me, but I applied for that last minute, and they ended up paying for my entire. I was supposed to be changing my website from Wix to Shopify. They're covering all of my Shopify for the next year or two, and that's like thousands of dollars. And they're giving us a free fashion show in July this year. And so things that I just merely thought of are now happening on their own. But I didn't know how to do none of this stuff. I said, "Child, I don't know how to do that. Give me a mentor. Give me somebody." And so you have to be afraid to say, "Hey, white flag, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do QuickBooks. My receipts I put gum in my last receipts from Michael, so I need help with my receipts." And so they had to give me a financial mentor. But I had to be honest with myself and say, "Hey, I could look cute, but my business stuff is a mess. Somebody come help me." And so because I raised that white flag, I now have infrastructure in place now. I wrote off my whole trip to Ghana. I wrote off my trip to Panama because I said I'm doing product photos by the water. So this is now a business trip. I went to dinner and paid for my mom and them to eat because we talked about HR. So now I'm learning how to write off things that are business related, but I had to talk to somebody instead of being like, "Girl, I ain't gonna tell how much money I make." No, tell somebody. Talk to somebody. Be honest. Say, somebody, "I need you to give me a gig because I got a couple of bills due." Be honest with your friends. Get you 2 or 3 honest art friends that you can say, "Hey, how did you archive your work? How do you get your prints done?" Stop trying to hoard all the opportunities, because your friend sitting next to you might have the wisdom you need to get your art to the next level. And don't be afraid to say, "Hey, one day I want to be in this place." So she told me about her place, so now that's on my prayer list. And I'm excited. I already got my outfit picked out for your opening night. Because when two or more gather, I mean, I'm not gonna get too churchy, but it's true to scripture. If you partner with at least one or two people, your dreams will come true. You just got to get somebody that's gonna push you. So when I get in my feelings, my sister's like, "Well, I thought you was gonna be a millionaire this year. You're not acting like a millionaire." I said, "Yeah, you're right. Let me not buy all this stuff." So people will hold you accountable when you share your dreams. They're trusted people. Don't tell everybody, because people try to steal your ideas, and now all of a sudden they on billboards. But that's another story. But be honest with yourself. Yell for help, and don't limit your dreams. But you got to write something down, because you don't give God nothing to work with if you just sit around saying one day. No, start writing it down now. So when that sheet of paper is looked at 10 years from now, you're like, wow, I wrote that down in 2022, and look what happened.
That's the whole word.
Hey, I want to add two things. I want to add this real quick, because it's something that we forget about, but she kind of touched on that. Like, even though I'm an artist, like I hire like a lot of artists and photographers. Call people back. Call people back. Do what you say you're gonna do, right? And I think, like, to me, like, those are two things that you could use it whether you're an artist or anything. But like with a lot of young people, the problems that I've had, like young artists, and I'll be 54, so anybody that's younger than me is young. But yeah, like I reached out to artists, and like I've had projects and they don't call back, like mural projects in Detroit, and I'm like, why doesn't anybody call me back? So call people back, because you never know what's going to be, on the other side of that call. And I'll tell my wife, like, it's like, even though like I've had some success, like I don't think I'm beyond any phone call yet, because you just never know where it's going to lead. And so I would say that, and then the other thing I wanted to talk about, shit, I should have wrote this shit down, man. I'm sorry, when you get old, you just kind of forget stuff. If it comes back to me, but I think like that's I think, don't be afraid to sell your work to a collector twice. And so like I know a lot of people that they'll sell something to somebody one time, and then I'll ask them, have you reached out back out to them? You got new stuff? Nah. I'm like, why not? It's like, I don't know. So, if you got a collector, I mean, you got somebody that buys your work, they're a fan. And so you have to create your own system to introduce that new work. So whether it's like a newsletter, MailChimp, or just say texting them things that you're working on in the studio. Because I think I talked to you about that, and you say that you kind of update like your collectors like real time, like, hey, check this thing out. But selling to somebody over and over again is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, right quick, but I have what I do is a right of first refusal. So I have maybe a dozen collectors, premium collectors, and then I decide based on the piece who views first, second, third, fourth. Most pieces don't get past the first viewing. I try to create a clock. I try to put everybody on a clock. I don't like to have a lot of inventory. Um, I try to, and I've always been this way, even when I was broke. It was never like, I'm broke. It's like I got two left, and you got to get it. You know what I'm saying? And you know that that's what you're going to do. So I wouldn't be afraid of taking some risk as creatives, and stating your value, and be very conscious of passion separated from profit. That's like a main piece. Your passion is completely different than that profit. When you created it, you put all your passion into it. When it comes time, you put a price on it. Now it is a product. That product has to have profit.
Shooting them off tonight. So to those points, we're talking about multiple streams of income and managing and all, wearing hats. DL and Melissa, y'all mentioned who you work with, right? And if each of you can speak to, we've organized teams and how that looks like from an operating standpoint, right? Of you're just like, it's one thing to organize a team for a project, but it's another thing to have a team to when you have a powerhouse of a wife like Lisa Warfield. Because that's important, because all of this is about flow and systems, right? And how well our systems flow to be able to, not physically give ourselves we need to create that passive income. So I'll start with you, Melissa, and you can tell us a little about your team,
Okay.
your day-to-day team.
Okay, so me. So I was growing up. I was always fascinated with the Black Wall Street and Harlem Renaissance and all those things, right? And so you looked at those pictures, and many people will be sitting with the same hairdresser who might have been their friend, who was also their doctor, their lawyer, all those different things. I said, one day I'm going to make sure my team looks like me. And so when I got my first opportunity with Spanx, I was panicking because I didn't have a team. I'm still going to work every day. I was like, I need a PR team. And so at the time, my sister just got a junior publicist role at Cartoon Network. And I was like, so instead of trying to find somebody to do it, I said, let me empower the team that I have next to me, right? And so my sister's like, I ain't never did it either. I said, we're going to figure this out. And so we are, we're ideating at home because at this point I'm still living at home. And so I said, you know what? We're going to figure this out together. So if we win, we're going to win together. And we did. And we won that. We won something with Ford. We won Cadillac. So all these different things. But the power of my team, again, is going back to my story. And so because I was able to empower from within my own network, now she is about to sign a huge project that she can't even speak of now. But because I planted that seed in her and gave her that trust early on, she now is empowered to help other people that's just the same. And now my sister is over my production, and now she is now a comedian and doing all kind of crazy stuff on social media. And even my mom, who had 30 years of HR experience, said tap it. Okay, well, it worked. It worked. And and now that she has had those 30 years, but she is the one that said, why don't we employ people that you talk to every day and watch their passions and find places for you within your team? And so even when I got my MARTA contract, she said, we can give you X amount of dollars, but you only got a week to do it. I said, how am I gonna paint this whole MARTA station? I said, I'm gonna call. At the time, her name was Ash. Y'all know it's Sumayyah. I'm trying to get her name together. But at the time, I said, right. But at the time, it's like you can take home 20, 30, 40,000, but why not take home 10 and have your homegirl make 5 or 10 too, right? And then after that one opportunity, it was only supposed to be up for 3 months, and now it has been the longest run of mural at MARTA, now going on 2 years. And so, and those opportunities from everybody passing by that MARTA mural, now Powerhouse Creative is in the mind of MARTA every time they go for a prize. Can you call your friend Ash, that girl Ash? Can you call her? And so I not only empowered myself, but now I put my sisters in place to now also to make money. So a lot of times before you go out and try to look for these perfect people for these roles, you might be sitting next to your accountant. When I got the call from Foot Locker, I called my homeboy from college. I forgot he had finished law school. He was at the #1 entertainment law firm that manages Jay-Z. He said, I'll do it for free. He said, I'll do your trademark. I'll go over your contract. Tell them that you got a lawyer and drop my firm name. And they were like, oh, we'll let you know when we're ready. And so because I had that relationship, it was a phone call away. So what could have cost me $1 million was a relationship building. So don't be afraid to build real relationships, not using folks, but genuine relationships. So when a call comes for another $40,000, $50,000 mural, it's merely a text message away, and I got my whole team ready to paint within 2 days. Oh, I did it again. And so that's for me. It's network, valuing your network. Don't be afraid to DM a friend or call a friend to ask for help. But that's been my biggest thing is delegating, but with intention. Because I'm not gonna just say call Brenda and do this. In my mind, I'm praying for this opportunity to be bigger for you, not only for you but for myself also. So that's how I roll.
Brenda, your team.
Yeah. I would very much all of that. Hire your friends. Don't look past the people that are telling you this is what I do, and you don't actually go look into what they're telling you that they do. If you meet someone and they say this is what I do, actually look them up and see if that's what they do and talk to them and build relationships. Everybody that I work with is come from somebody that I know. Every project that I've worked on, everyone that I work with on the business side and the art side is someone from someone else that knows someone else, all relationship building and friendship. So one of my biggest rules is never to burn bridges. And I think someone told me that when I was just starting out at like 12 years old, honestly, as like a record label or something. Someone's like, that's the #1 thing is being a human being in general. Don't burn bridges because you never know when someone else is going to show up, where you are, or where you're going to need them, or they're going to need you, or something like that. So I have a band. I have a booking agent. I have a casting for a talent agency. I work with an accountant. I have a lawyer that's been with me since I was 12 years old. And all of these people have come into my life, are all friends. We all support each other. And so I would say, like the people that you work with as well. That's a big thing. I think I heard Kenny Leon say one time when he's casting for Broadway, and it comes down to two people in a role, and they're both extremely talented. One's an asshole, and one's a nice person. It doesn't matter if in that last audition, the person that was not a nice person was the best. We're gonna pick the person that was the nicest, that you like to be around. Because when it comes to business, to me, it's very spiritual as well. So I want to make sure that I am on the same wavelength as the people that are on my team. That's very important to me. And all the time, just by accident, you find out like, oh, you have the same signs, or we have the same rising signs, or we got the same moon signs, or your mama's a Taurus too. Like, I'm a Taurus.
This is what I'm saying.
It works that way. May 14th, I just had a birthday.
I just had a birthday.
When's your birthday?
May 11th. That's what I'm saying. I'm tired of God. Go ahead, girl. It's crazy.
Listen, the universe listens. That is also one of the biggest lessons I have learned in being a human being and an artist. The universe listens. If you write it down, if you are intentional, it will come back to you. And I think they say the saying like, our greatest fear is that we are more powerful beyond measure. It's true, because when you start to think about how much power you actually have, and you have deprecating thoughts and things like that, you start to realize those things are you're self-actualizing those things. Yeah. So I think it's extremely important for the people around you to be on a good wavelength that you are as well.
My Taurus sister. Crazy.
Well, my initial team, chronologically, was the hype boy, the hype man homeboy, the guy off the block that believed in you and, really rolled around with you, helped carry the paint, told everybody you was, you was the next thing coming, you was hot, and they were like, Whack who? What's his name? That guy was like the first team. The second team was like the death row era, where I had like literally a 50% partner in my publishing company. And that's what blew it up to a global phenomenon when I had that partner. But the day that we chopped out our deal, we were driving from Chicago to the Circle of Sisters in New York City festival. And we were in a Toyota Corolla that could barely make it down the highway. And he said, look, you don't know what you're doing. He said, we need to be partners. He said, I give you a 50% partnership. He said, no artist will get that. What they'll get is a royalty with a publishing company. He said, but I'm gonna give you 50% ownership in yourself. I said, okay, that sounds pretty good, I guess. He says, but this is the thing, all partnerships come to an end. He told me that day one. 8 years later, I'm, I was single then, so I'm in California, up in the Oakland Hills with some beautiful sister, and I come back to Atlanta, and the warehouse doors, the lock's been changed, and I'm like, oh man, what's going on? Hey, you changed the locks? He said, hey, I want to sell your artwork, but I don't want to have to answer to you. We split. I left half the inventory in the warehouse. I'm gonna take half. Good luck. I said, wow. Are you sure this is what you want to do? I asked him 3 times. He said, why you keep asking me? Is that what I want to do? Now, I had a whole team. I had the partner, I had staff, I had shipping people, I had a secretary, the whole 9. Everything snatched. I go to the banks. Money gone. Okay? My tax accounts, which had $250,000 in it to pay my taxes, gone.
Wow.
Okay? I'm buried in tax debt. This is my team now. I'm buried because see, once the money comes, the team can change on you. They could be cool up front when it's just a dream. That money start coming in, different story. So I get buried in this debt. That wasn't the worst of it. Then I start seeing my work showing up in different places. He done got out here and started selling his rights to other entities. Now now I'm competing against myself, publishing my own work, competing against my own work. Wow. Right? And buried in tax debt. Okay? Brother tells me, you should feel liberated.
My goodness.
I said, damn, okay.
Is he still living?
Yeah. Now, this is the thing. I admit I'm from the southeast side.
That's all
Now, I had called some people. And the people was down there. They was down there. And he came to my door, and I couldn't answer the door because them people was them people. And so I said, cool. So I called an artist named Annie Lee. She passed years ago. She's one of the biggest top-selling artists in the world. And Annie was like my industry mama. And she said, whack. She said, it was 52 paintings. I'll never forget. It was 52 images. And just to give you a scope of this was 1998. My 52 images were doing probably approximately 150 to 170,000 in sales a month. She says, that's a blink of your career. She said, don't let that bring you down. She said, baby, what I want you to do is go get you a canvas. She said, art got you into this mess. Art will get you out of it. It literally saved my life. Come to find out, the brother had got on drugs. Now, this is a brother who had a master's in statistics, was an architect by trade, was married, had kids, came to Atlanta, lost his mind.
As they all
okay?
do. Yes, they do.
Came to Atlanta, lost his mind. When he realized I had the upper hand, because he knew how much money we made. So when I painted my next picture, this goes to a faith piece. I painted a painting called Step Out on Faith. Yeah. Before I painted that painting, most of my work was more sensual, erotic, and so on and so forth. So I painted this piece about my faith. And it was literally a dream I had that woke me up. And he said to me, I ran into him at a big show in Philadelphia called October Gallery. And he said, well played. I said, what you mean? He said, you was paying attention to me. He said, most artists don't pay attention. I said, I always want to know how I'm making my money. I said, the only piece I was missing, because I was so attached emotionally to my work, was when you left, all the clients left with you because they knew you ran the company. The one company you didn't sell to for 7 years was this Jewish guy named Bruce Teleke out in New York. That was the one call I made, was to Bruce. Bruce flew to Atlanta, had dinner with me, and I said, if you buy anything new I produce, you have to buy all my earlier work too. And so I started connecting pieces to my previous catalog and put every company that turned their back on me out of business. Okay? That was something that taught me about the team piece. Okay? Now my team is like my wife, you understand? My son, you understand? You know, I got my bookkeeper and my accountants. I have to keep my eye on them, but you know, it's a different ball game. So you can build an empire, but I promise you to please, not that it has to happen to you, be conscious of when the money comes. It is money. My last secretary worked for me for 8 years. When the company split, she came work with me. And Mr. Gilbert knows her well. I told Mr. Gilbert one day, I said, man, she sure been dressing nice. She got a lot of designer stuff. And, you know, I said, she must got a new
Wearing
boyfriend.
Melissa Mitchell stuff.
I said, she must got a new boyfriend, right? And so a distributor I supply said, hey, look, man, she's taking out stuff out the back door on you.
Oh,
I said, you got to be kidding me.
wow.
I said, I trust this sister with everything. Okay. And that was my biggest lesson, was that I wasn't as good a judge of character as I thought.
Mm.
So for me, the trauma of team is a little different. I'm extremely cautious about this team I'm building now. I have gone as far as what you said, like the closest person to you when I got commissioned by the PGA to do the piece for the museum. And they said, well, we're going to bring you down to your agent. I didn't have an agent. So there's an artist, you may want to Google her name, Phyllis Stevens. She's a quilt maker. She's a blue chip artist. Quilts sell for like 150,000 a piece. I called Phyllis and said, Phyllis, look, I need you to pretend like you're my agent, right? We finna roll down here to New Orleans. We finna roll down here to New Orleans. And Phyllis threw on her little, I forgot what it's called, a scholar suit or something like that. We went down there, we played the whole role. But I knew that Phyllis wouldn't do me. You know what I'm saying? She wouldn't screw me over. So I'd be very cautious about your teams. That's the moral of my story.
Yeah. It's on.
No, yeah, you should definitely be cautious. I would probably say like my team, a lot of the people that make up my team, like we go back to like 1982, 83. So
That was a good
like a
year.
lot of them are childhood friends. So those guys would be attorneys. Those guys could be finance experts, and then like I have a great team of like mentors that I still call to this day, guys that I interned for, that they really made me who I am as an artist, like even more so than in college. And so like, and then I have a team of guys like my creative guys that, if I call them at midnight, they probably know why I call them at midnight. I'd be like, hey, what do you think if I did this, and that? Oh man, that should be dope. But why don't you do this? So I got like my, I guess kind of like hype guys, but like people that I have the utmost creative respect for, and they'll keep it all the way 100. And if anything, like if I have an idea, like we'll play a game of one-upsmanship, like who can make my idea better. And so, like a lot of people don't know, but like I was an athlete in college. I did two sports, and so being a member of a team was never an issue for me. Whether I had to make a block to let you score, or whether I had to make the score, so that we can win the game. And so when it gets down to being a team, like the only issue that I have is if you don't work as hard as I do. If you don't work as hard as I do and you don't do what you say you're gonna do, like we're gonna have an issue. And so like I've gotten rid of people that worked like reps, agents and things like that because I'm like, well damn, like I'm selling my work more than you. Like I'm retaining your services and you're not really doing anything. And so, you know, so I think you gotta really watch that. I mean, he kind of talked about trust, but I think, finding people that have great work ethic, and you guys don't even have to have a lot in common. But if you got somebody that's going to work their butt off, and then at sometimes even make you think different or challenge like the methods that you do things, I think that helps you grow, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but yeah, definitely be discerning, and if you're fortunate like me, you know, uh, I got guys that the only thing they might have cheated me out of is like a game of John Madden or some potato chips or some shit like that, but never over no money though.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful thing.
yeah.
That was a heavy one. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I do want to share, for me in organizing and working on projects and trying to, speak to a lot of the things that everyone's been talking about tonight. I mean, DL's been a mentor for me, Kevin, Melissa, we've all worked together in some capacity and just, we've all been a team in some space, and now we got Brenda moving forward as well. But it's just really important on the economic front that we understand what we're up against, and how to alleviate the pressures. One of the challenges of just being a creative and, the attention span of a creative at times and being passionate about all those things. But we have to, you know, take initiative. I've worked with artists. It's like, well, wait a minute, I'm going harder for your career than you going for your own.
Yeah,
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
yeah.
whoa.
You're the only one rowing the
Yeah.
boat.
So it works that way on both sides, and it's just like we have to be more aware of the things that which we don't know, and take more initiative to. All right, we talked about the ebbs and flows of business, especially as a creative, when your funds, come at different times. You might work with a nonprofit or government organization where you might have got the gig, but you might not get paid for another 3-6 months.
Right.
So we need to it's the mindset. Before we talk about anything, it's the mindset of having a sustainable career and the times that we're up again, our financial responsibility about, to DL said, I'm a business, and being businesses. So, some of the things we've been talking about with this NBAF Artist Fund cohort components, these cohort members have been learning taxes, financial literacy, NFTs, NFTs with Mr. Souls, taxes with the Sohei Galbraith of Galbraith Solutions. Brandon from Butter ATL, learning how to balance your business and your personal. Kareem Latif, learning how to do sponsorship decks and things like that. People who have really mastered this. Jaleesa White Smith, the executive of Mint Gallery, teaching, learning how to get grants and everything, all the components that we need to operate our businesses. But most importantly for me, it's about quality of life. I want us to have whatever we want to have because we're storytellers, we're preservers of culture. Artists have captured history since the beginning of time, and especially in these times where we're up against, whether it be in the city of Atlanta, as Black folks in this country, whatever we're journalists in a sense. So whatever way we're communicating, we need the resources to be able to do so. So,
Tap it. Tap the mic.
So yeah, I just, I'm grateful to all of our panelists tonight, especially, for sharing such knowledgeable information, and just want to remind creative entrepreneurs, Black creative entrepreneurs, as much as possible, stop getting distracted. We're up against a lot, and being mindful and intentional. Because I want us to have, you want to buy a house, okay, go buy a house. You want to travel, go have the experience. So I just want to go ahead and wrap that up, and we'll open up the floor to our audience.
Hey, before you do that, another thing we got to do, we got to support people like Ash or Sumayyah. And the first time that I met her, the feeling that I got was that she was really about uplifting and helping everybody in the Black arts community. And so, so when you get a person like that, support her efforts, because on more than one occasion, she's mentioned my name in rooms and she's fought for me, and I know she's done it for other people too. So we got to have people like Ash, who's been a great. Sorry to keep calling you Ash, but your mama called you Ash. but we gotta support people like her, because she's a great advocate for everybody, that's either made it or trying to make it.
Do we have anyone in the audience that has a question for any of the panelists here?
I have a question. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So I want to ask, how much of your career is your artwork, and how much of your career is networking? What's the percentage? What is it? How can you it's funny because I don't even call myself an artist most time. I'm just a businesswoman that happens to be an artist, right? And so art brings me to the table, but inspiration and my energy and my spirit keeps me in the door. And so the relationships that I've built and just having honest conversations have led to my business deals. And many opportunities I've just applied on faith. I was like, I know I ain't the best one, but I'm going to apply anyway. So I think, back to our spirituality conversation, it's really just me doing the self-work to really realize my self-worth, right? And so it's a daily conversation in the mirror, like, girl, I can do this. I'm made for this. I'm that girl. And so when I walk in, I was listening to Inky Johnson. I'm a podcast girl. I have to listen every day. But he talks about no matter what anybody feels about you, as long as you feel a certain way about you, eventually everybody else will too. And so I come in the room like I am that girl. And guess what? I am that girl, whether you like it or not. That's how I feel. And so I put that into my artwork. And so I'm in a gallery with some of the biggest names, right? They're like, "What's something about this?" And I said, "Y'all like it, huh? It's cute, right?" I was like, "I think it's cute." And so I'm giving them my energy. And so when it comes to my career, it's all me. Whether it's art, business, network, it's Melissa, right? And so that's inclusive of everything that I bring to the table. And so I think that's why I've been successful, is because I don't look at it as a sale or an opportunity. It's like, this is my legacy. I'm fresh off a flight from Ghana, and I'm so full because I know that everything that I create is my legacy. We are the descendants of those who made it, right? And so every opportunity we get is an opportunity to leave breadcrumbs for who comes behind us. And so I'm not just painting because it's cute. I'm painting because if something happened to me tomorrow, y'all gonna see all this beautiful stuff left behind. Be like, man, she was here. And so I think about my father and my other ancestors. They made us speak our ancestors out over the water where our ancestors died. And I was like, wow, we're the ones that made it. And so to be an artist is an act of liberation, but it's also an act of legacy. So when you look at your art like that, I don't care who buy it. Just keep painting, because that's what's gonna be left behind when you're gone.
Anyone else? Mr. Gilbert want to say something?
Yeah, I would like to say something.
Absolutely.
You guys talked about the art, but you didn't tell them your commitment to be a better artist. Each time you hit that canvas, each time you hit that mic, or whatever area of art that you're in, you have to be honest with yourself. See, you talked about the end product that you create. The first thing that you're creating is something of beauty, you hope. Now, all of us cannot be at the same level as artists. It's not going to happen. Some are here, some are there, but wherever you start, what you want to do as an artist is to be able to grow in your art, and then be honest with yourself as to, can I paint as well as Kevin, as well as Charles White, or as well as the other artists around me? That's your product. You can sit there and think that you're great, but Kevin said the one important thing: acceptance. That is, acceptance is a part of this journey called being an artist. All right, and you, as a probably, I'm older than all of you. At 80 and starting at 18, that is a lot of history that I have experienced. And I know one thing about, we talked about money, 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 money. And I'm really kind of tired of talking about money, because money, you didn't do it for money. You did it out of love of what you do. The money will come. The excellence will come when you dedicate yourself to it. I know Kevin well. I know every day how much he works. I know how much I work. And I know that you all will work. And I know a secret that I'm going to tell you. You will become successful as long as you do it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that, because that's extremely true. I think it's, sometimes it does get away from us. I'm very much a high level introvert. My girl Melissa is not. So I think when you come out and you're in front of people, there is a discredit that I do you by being deceptive. There's an extremely high level of work and commitment that goes into getting oneself to these levels. A high most of my introvert conduct is to protect my zone. Like I really don't want to contaminate my zone with other people's um, their energy. You know what I'm saying? So at the same time, like Mr. Gilbert said, I believe that the skill of lying to yourself has prevented many geniuses from developing and traps them in mediocrity. And that's the problem with that. I'm very honest. I knew when I couldn't draw hands well. I knew when I wasn't symmetric. I knew when I was an airbrush artist that I get called out by painters. So I trained myself to paint. Mr. Gilbert introduced me to oil. I sat down with that till I got to a level where I feel like people can say, okay, this brother, I can't tell if he's trained, not trained, whatever. I'm highly insecure artistically, but that's what keeps me at the level that I'm at because I'll never be that comfortable to believe that I'm just that good. So for me, every piece of art is equal to or greater than the last.
Yeah, that's great. But like one of my favorite quotes is like, "You're never as good as you are, but you're never as bad as you are at the same time." And so I think that a lot of times, like those improvements come incrementally. You know, like you might not see it on painting number two that came after painting number one, but that lesson that you're going to learn in painting number three, you know, is going to make a difference. And then I think it's a lot of times like when you look at the value of skill versus work ethic, you know, and so like I've known plenty of mega talented artists with no work ethic. And so to me, like I place work ethic over the talent level like any single day. And I mean, I've seen, uh, and sometimes it's really like when you think about okay, what makes something good, you know, I think like really like if you're the critic person, like you're the person that has the ultimate say so because it was your intent when you made it. And so while I do understand like the acceptance, but I think a lot of times, like the crowd that you want to get accepted for, like they're not going to accept you because they're envy, and that's just being real. So you have to be comfortable enough with yourself within that and understand that you're not really creating it for them, but if you could accept who you are as an artist, then that's the victory. But I think like when you're playing to a crowd and you're really hoping this group wants you, forget that shit, because there's a lot of unhappy people out there. So just keep going, just keep pushing, and place the work ethic over everything. And I always believe that if you give it everything that you got, God is gonna make it work out.
Oh,
So I'm a writer, and this panel really helped me because I just had a really hard time dealing with some of the criticisms and things that have been happening on social media. How do you create a boundary there with like being as successful as you are and doing the things that you do, and kind of closing that wall from people that are like, that have criticism? Because of course it's simple to be like, well, take a break or take a moment back, but when your business survives online, and we're in a time where there's a really toxic relationship between Black-owned businesses and consumers, where everyone wants to hold you accountable.
Right.
And there's a lot of anger from consumers when they don't get their way or things don't look the way they want them to look, or you're not doing what they think you should be doing. How do you create that mental boundary?
Delete block.
Correct.
No, no, this is what I think. I think spend 95% of your time focusing and targeting the people that support your work. Fuck the 5% of them. But just focus on them, and I think a lot of times, you got like people that support your work, but you're looking at these people over here that don't support your work. Talk to the people that support your work, and then they're gonna tell other people why they should support your work and grow your audience that way. So sometimes you just gotta go with the flow,
And not all your people, not all the people are going to be your people.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was about
Yeah,
to
yeah,
say.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I want to speak to that as well, because especially in my role being in the in between, right? I don't really create visual artwork unless I'm like hanging out on someone's mural, but I work behind the scenes in that. And for me, even when I started in this, I started out supporting artists, chefs, and musicians, and that has not changed. But I've worked with people who were just like, you mind manager, but you don't have no value. And so I was like, okay, but it's working. But then I would have folks like, DL reach out or Fahamu and be like, I want to work with you. I see what you're doing. I don't know in what capacity. So I'm like, there's value here. So is this, and so you have to make sure, like, no matter what, just go where the love is. Because I know if I'm doubting myself, I can call anyone that I worked with and be like, am I crazy right now? Or like, and DL was like, yeah, I mean, you got to be a little thrown off to do this work, really.
It's a nice place to visit.
Yeah, but I know, like, I have to cancel that out. I have to cancel that out by any means, because it's like, for me, Allah wouldn't put this passion on my heart, because I know there's a value here. And if I can make some real changes, and there's people that be like, no, but we need you. Like, okay, well, yeah, let's do it then. So I just, to wax point, delete, block,
Yeah.
He's more direct.
I think for me, I always remember why I started. I picked up a brush to climb out of depression, to deal with grief, to help my mama get some money for this house, and to find my purpose. And so even when I feel like I might be attacked, they can't attack my purpose, right? They can't attack the reason that God gave it to me. And so I remember why I started, and I remember where I started from. I saw you in the beginning pushing your books at, you got books in your purse trying to sell them, and you went from that to being an Amazon bestseller. And I also keep a gratitude jar. I go in there and say, oh, God did look out for me at this situation. So I have to go back to remember, because, think about the word Sankofa, you go back. You have to go back, because it's so easy when you're looking forward that you forgot where you came from. So you have to keep breadcrumbs to remind you of where you came from. Because I was still working at that job, people talking to me crazy, not knowing that I'm leaving there and going to sign a $6-7 deal with Spanx, but they still talking to me crazy. But I had to remember the humility that I had to still walk in every day, because I still needed that insurance, right? And so remember why you started. Every time you feel discouraged, you have to write notes to yourself. I just put up something the other day, 7 years ago. I said, man, one day I'll get to wear head wraps and really cool clothes when I go to meetings. And look what I'm doing 7 years later, But I wrote that note to my future self saying, girl, you gonna make it. You're gonna make it. And so if you're feeling away, write that down, because you need to remember this, because that's gonna fuel you, and it's gonna refuel you when you have moments where people talk to you crazy. You're like, girl, y'all may talk to me crazy. You don't know where I came from. Right, because I was going home crying every day up until like recently about my daddy. Like, he's been gone 12 years, and I still bust out crying if I say his name. So I know why I started and why I had to keep going, which is why I'm such a brilliant light when I show up, because it took me a long time to get here. And I don't care what nobody say online about what they got, what my art look like and what it don't look like, because I know what God gave me. And so you have to have that same kind of like when it comes to people talking crazy to you and about you. Remember, it's your walk. It's your legacy. That dash on the tomb, you and your dash right now. Make sure your dash is all of that, and then some.
Yes.
Ooh.
That concludes our evening. I want to extend a thank you to NBAF for supporting my work and the curation of the 2023 artist cohort. Stephanie and Vanessa, they're phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal to work with, and especially during these times, a lot of organizations are short-staffed and just really trying to do all they can. And as a nonprofit, they're really doing some great work in the community. So thank you. Thank you to Fulton Public Art for helping to pay for some of this and these lovely meals tonight. Local Green, and of course our artist, Melissa Mitchell. Brenda Moorer, Kevin Williams, and Warfield. He's over here working, y'all.
Sorry, I was closing the deal.
Thank
Boom.
you.
Damn shame.
Like, should I go outside? Should I go down?
Awesome.
Wait, I want to box.